The college football experience SEC coach rankings 1 to 16 episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up over at underdogfantasy.com, but make sure when you do, you use our promo code TCESGPN. Is that promo code, and it'll get you up to $1,000 in bonus credits. So sign up, and remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
This is Mike Leach, head football coach at Mississippi State, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Holy shit. YouTube.com/the college experience. SEC coaches 1 to 16. We are ranking them. And I must apologize for almost saying college basketball experience, although you should go check out those episodes. But I was just talking a little college hoops right before the show. That's why I had the cloud brain, the old cloud brain. If you wonder or wondering who the hell you're listening to, that's fair. My name is Colby Swiggin Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
Oh, boy. 16 teams in the Southeastern Conference these days. We're ranking them all. And I want to give a special rest in peace to the great Steve McMichael. Mongo, baby. Rest in peace. Rest well. Former Texas Longhorn himself. Probably my favorite thing that's ever came out of the University of Texas. Rest easy, man. Rest easy. Job well done. I am joined by my co-host, former staffer for Austin Peay, the Governors, the South Carolina Gamecocks, and the West Virginia Mountaineers. Give it up for the host of the Ryan and Rush Show, Ryan McIntyre, a.k.a. Moneyline Mac. How are you, brother?
Let's do it, man. I can't wait to talk some coaches. This is the SEC, man. I'm sure everybody will agree, right?
Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight. Oh, boy. Yes, here we are ranking the top 16 coaches. I'll be honest. I thought one was easy. 16 pretty easy. Yeah. But everything in between, this will be a fun one, talking shit back and forth. Shout out to the chat. Once again, you can hop in the chat to see people in there talking right now. YouTube.com/the college experience. Jump on over there. Weehawk. Shout out to Weehawk saying he's already doing slander coming at the SEC with his Rich Rod material and his Lance Leipold material. Hey, I do think we could pose some questions. Well, I'm going to save that for after we rank all 16. But, I do think there's a good question or two to be asked about the forefront of the sport now that everyone's paying everybody. Do they need some coaching staffs need an upgrade, or some universities need an upgrade at the head coach position? We will talk about that towards the end of the episode. But, let's just jump right into this, because 16 coaches, I'm sure we'll be arguing. But it didn't start with much of an argument because, there's only one way to go. And you're a young coach. YouTube.com/the college experience. We got slides, but I'm going to go first. I'll show you in the bottom left-hand corner. You will see which one is mine and which one is Mac. So let's jump on in on this action here. At coach number 16. Is Hail State, Mississippi State's Jeff Lebby. That is my 16th ranked coach in the SEC. And really, I think a lot of the logic is this. I mean, look, I'm kind of a certified hater on his stuff because I believe he coaches the most dangerous play in football, and no one wants to admit it because it's an offensive play, and we want more offense. But I think the abrupt quarterback slide that Mackenzie Milton, Dylan Gabriel at UCF, Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma and at Oregon, which I know Lebby wasn't there, but also Matt Corral at Ole Miss, Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. They do this abrupt slide bullshit, and they end up getting concussed and knocked out, and it's the worst thing ever for the defense. But it's a play that should be outlawed. It's ridiculous it's not outlawed already, and I believe he coaches it because I've seen it at 3 different destinations. Actually 4 because Mississippi State last year, and remember, Lebby was at Oklahoma prior. Before that, he was at Ole Miss. Before that, he was at UCF. And I find it convenient that all of that happened with their quarterbacks there. So I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I have an issue with that play, a strong issue with that play. And I am a skeptic of his approach because he often gets quarterbacks knocked the fuck out. And that's not good for your team long term. I mean, I just feel like you're not going to be able to win a lot of games when your quarterback's getting knocked out. So that alone right there, and we saw it just last year, Mississippi State's quarterback was out for the season. Now, I don't believe it was a concussion. I think it was a different injury, but still, he's got the most to prove to me. And I'm not now getting into, year one. I don't know how well he could have done. I guess you could have beaten Toledo. That would have been nice. When the MAC comes in. Yeah. When the MAC comes in and whoops your ass. But other than that, the jury's still out, I guess. And I will say in that regard, if I throw that coaching style away with that bullshit play, and I just look at it from the other side of this, I say, well, his offenses did put up some points. I don't know if it works. A lot of things that I also think is I think the game is catching up to all those offenses. I really believe it's like a chalky thing to, oh, well, we're going to go out and hire this, and this, all from, you could trace it back there to our boy, Coach Mike Leach, rest in peace, our buddy. But I'm a skeptic. You saw it last year. I don't think it's going to work here in Starkville. And he's got it to his credit. He's only coached 1 year as a head coach. So I think you have to have him ranked at 16th in this conference. And when I look over at Moneyline Max, next slide here, he's got it at 16 as well. Jeff Lebby there. Mac, your thoughts on Jeff Lebby and why'd you come to the number of 16th?
I mean, I think everybody will have this one unless you're a Mississippi State fan. I mean, he's only been a head coach 1 year, finished 2-10. And you mentioned his other stops at Oklahoma, Ole Miss, UCF. I thought too at Oklahoma they kind of underachieved a couple of those years. So indirectly, another knock on him. So, but ultimately, I came to the conclusion that he had to be 16th because he's only coached 1 year. So these other guys in this league have coached a lot longer. I can't see a case to not be 16th when you went 2-10 in your only year.
I think it's the most easy. It's the easiest one. And I know there's another really easy one, but I actually think this is the easiest.
The easier
because I don't think you can make an argument. Yeah, I don't think you can make an argument for saying 15th. So shout out to Weehawk. Is that one of those 19.2 ounce beers? I don't know. It's I call it a tall boy. I don't know. Asking me for numbers, a 25 ounce beer, buddy, 25 ounce beer. Yeah. Step up your game, buddy. But yeah, Jeff Lebby, I think was the easiest one on this exercise, even though I thought there was another really easy one. You could argue that one better. This one, I don't really think you have an argument for putting him anywhere higher. So, yeah, there's that. We're going to jump to number 15. But before we do that, I want to let you know that the College Football Experience is part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And tomorrow night, we have the SGPN NFL Draft Show. Yes, obviously we have the NFL Draft. And because of that, we have the NFL Draft Show over at the Sports Gambling Podcast on YouTube. It's a live watch party we're doing for the entire round 1 of the NFL draft, featuring all of your favorite hosts and fans from SGPN. I will be there. Mac will be there. I think everyone will be there. Tune in this Thursday, 8:00 Eastern, youtube.com/the Sports Gambling Podcast. Once again, youtube.com/the Sports Gambling Podcast. All right, we are back. And at number 15, see where I went. Oh, Billy Napier. Billy Napier. Look, this is one. If I'm being honest, a lot of it has to do with the fact. Yes, he did have his best season, I think, as a head coach. Really, I'm gonna say even better than Louisiana when he went 12-1. Last season going 8-5 against a really challenging schedule. He's still 19-19 at Florida, which is to me a failure. And one of the things, I was a skeptic of this hire when it happened, because Louisiana, he did great at Louisiana. Make no mistake about it. 40-12 at Louisiana. But that to me that's when they still had divisions, first off, and the Sun Belt West was the weakest division in football. And one of the things that stood out, Napier was in charge of their offense, and I thought their defense was what really was great about Louisiana. And another thing is, like, to me, it was almost like fickle at Cincinnati, when it was the way they were barely beating some of these teams that I thought they should be whooping up on. I thought it was a little phony, personally. Like, I still thought Louisiana, I mean, how do I say this correctly? He did a great job there. 12-1 is 12-1. But I don't think he would have been able to sustain that, because I thought the Sun Belt, he was there right when all these FCS teams were transitioning. They couldn't qualify for stuff. And I just feel like he capitalized on that, to his credit. But I think it was more about the defense than the offense. So, yeah, he's got a lot to prove to me. And a 500 record at Florida ain't going to cut it. I don't care if he went 8-5 last year. Mac at number 15. He goes Clark Lea, our boy. Oh, Clark Lea. So I like this. We already have difference now. Clark Lea was probably on the verge of being on the hot seat before he bust through last year, but he is 16-33 as a head coach, so I understand that argument there. But tell me why you had Clark Lea at 15.
Well, he's 9-27 without Diego Pavia, so I'm sorry. I wonder if it might have been a one-hit wonder this last year, but he does have Pavia back for another year. Jerry Kill back as well. So I'm intrigued to see if they can run it back here. They overachieved like crazy last year. I do like his mentors. I like his coaching tree. I mean, being connected to Brian Kelly, Elko, Dave Clawson. So, I mean, he's worked for good coaches. I just think unproven. And was it a one-hit wonder with Pavia having a magical year this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make my case, but I think there's a skill to knowing that the ship is going down. And he goes, man, I watched New Mexico State beat the shit out of Auburn at Auburn. Running this Jerry Kill offense this Tim Beck offense. I'm going to hire Beck. I'm going to hire Kill. I'm going to get Pavia. I'm going to get Eli Stowers and a few other guys. We're going to do this goddamn thing. I think there's an art to that thing. Yeah, we talked about it with McCullum in college basketball. Let me go get Drake going. Let's go get a whole D2 team. I think that was, but we'll get to it, because I think that I want to talk more about that. But Napier is my number 15. Clark Lea, your number 15. And I think you can make the case. I will say this. In many ways, I think you could be correct. I think the average listener might say, yeah, you got to put Clark Lea behind Napier, because Napier did go 12-1 at Louisiana. And there's no refuting that. Like, 12-1 at a mid-major is a very hard thing to do. Yep. So I could see that element of it, but I'll make my case in a second here. But let's get to number 14 here on the college football experience for old pick Dundee. It is Brent Venables. I actually think he's a decent coach It's just he's been in the middle of craziness. I don't know. I think he can sustain it, but I'm not 100% sure. You have them jumping conferences. You had the way Lincoln Riley left. You had Bob Stoops come back and coach the bowl game, and I think he recommended Venables. So it's like you're walking into some. It's just it's a tough thing. I didn't like some of the offensive coordinator hires he's done. Seth Luttrell was a little bit of an interesting one. Obviously Jeff Lebby. But I do think defensively he knows what the fuck he's doing. He's done it for a long time, back to his Bill Snyder days. But yeah, I think you have to put him at 15th or 14th, or I mean, like somewhere back five, just because he hasn't proven much yet. He has one double-digit win season, I think it is. Hasn't sniffed the championship game. Jury's still out in many ways. At number 14 for you.
And I like this guy.
Was Sam Pulled Pork Pittman, my boy. Sam Pittman. Why did you have just my first thought would be, why did you have Venables ahead of Pittman?
I kind of had them tied, but I mean, Pittman's got a losing record at Arkansas now. And he's 14-28 in the SEC. It's just been consistently underwhelming, and I feel like they've regressed since year 2 here. And they have money at Arkansas. That's the thing that's kind of been frustrating. So this is a big year. I think I already kind of laid it out. I think he's going to be the first coach fired, even though I am a fan of his. I mean, he was an offensive line coach at Georgia. I mean, everybody these coaches from Georgia and Alabama usually, like, they're coaching the best players. And I just think that they've underwhelmed in 5 years in Fayetteville. So my reason for having him one spot lower than Venables is he's been underwhelming for just a couple more years than Venables.
See, I think Venables, though, took over more of a fine-tuned machine. Pittman took over Arkansas when it was a fucking train wreck. So I think you got to throw out the first year because he had to build that toughness, and it was COVID. Not only was he battling COVID, he was taking over, I think, one of the softest SEC teams probably in the past 20 years. So this is good. This is good. The contrast here, I think he's done a decent job considering.
The year that really disappointed me was last year, 2023. That was the year where year 4, they took a huge step back, 4-8, 1-7 in league play. If they had thrown that out the year 2 and they had been progressing, I would be with you. But they've taken steps back, in my opinion.
Well, they kind of got hit in the portal a little bit that year, and I think that's when the alarms went off. They had to get their shit together from an NIL point of view. But fair enough. At number 13 for myself is Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer. Look, and this is one I actually think this is one of the hardest ones for me to rank.
Yeah.
Because I personally thought he was not qualified for the gig when he got it. I just was like, what? He's a special teams coach at Oklahoma, and he just gets an SEC job just because his dad is Frank Beamer, but he's 29-22. And I'll be honest, I was a huge skeptic. I thought last year, though, was the first year I bought in. Even the 8-win season in 22, I thought was there was some. I don't know that I really believe they were an 8-win team that year. Like some of the games they won, they escaped. I think it was the A&M game, but last year actually, and starting a freshman quarterback, like they greatly overachieved my expectations last year. Now the year before that, 5-7. I'll say this though. They almost lost to Old Dominion to start the season. If Old Dominion does not fumble inside their own 5, Old Dominion might have won that game. They were winning at the time. So it would have been, that was a huge moment this past season, and they were able to just look a lot better week in, week out as the season ended. And they probably should have beat Alabama at Alabama. I had a really hard time with it. If there's one that I feel I could be unfair to potentially, it is Shane Beamer, because I think he's done better than what I think he's done. but I will say the first couple of years, I kind of thought they were phony. Last year, I actually buy in that they were like a pretty damn good team. So that's my ranking for Shane Beamer at number 13. You went Brent Venables at number 13. You kind of touched on it before, but what was the logic here?
Maybe I'm giving Venables a slight pass because it was only year one in the SEC. I think that may be a part of my logic too, that, all right, he had a year, he got his teeth kicked in last year. They didn't have that roster ready to go. They weren't tough enough in the trenches. Quarterback was a disaster last year. And last time he had his back against the wall in year two, because he did the same thing year one in the Big 12. He got his ass kicked, made changes. Then they were 10-3. Yes, a favorable schedule that year in the Big 12. They got every break from the scheduling standpoint.
They did.
But they got some breaks this year in the scheduling, is what we laid out last night. So I don't think you can have him above this. He's 22-17 at Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley was winning 10 games every year at that place. So he needs to put up nine wins this year.
Yeah. I mean, that is fair though, that they, and by the way, go listen to last night's episode. We talked about the hot seat, all the college football coaches, not only in the SEC, but every conference on the hot seat, by our judgment. So go listen to that episode. Yeah. I mean,
as a Big 12 guy, I'm rooting against them, FYI. I like watching them be miserable. It's not always greener on the other side, Oklahoma fans, just because you get more money.
Arklahoma, we like to call them here. Arklahoma.
Right. Yes.
Because they're Arkansas 2.0, some say. We'll see how he does this year. Let's go to number 12. But before we do that, I do want to let the good people out there know that the college football experience is brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. There's no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cash back rewards, 100% approval for all betting deposits as well. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN. Once again, deposit $25 and Edge Boost will match the deposit, and make sure to let them know that us here at SGPN sent you. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by mybookie.ag. Love mybookie.ag. It's your favorite place to bet on every sport, including NBA playoffs, NFL draft props. I was cracking up at one of them today. How about this, man? What a world we live in. You got God bless the world. We have a prop here. I'm seeing Travis Hunter. Who will he hug first? Fiance minus 200. Mom plus 125. Dad plus 350. What a world.
What about Dion not on there?
Will Dion be there? It's a good question. He's not on there that I see. But maybe they'll add him. But that's what I mean is you can find first off, just there's a lot of great stuff you could bet for the NFL draft, but with my bookie, everything's going. NHL playoffs, MLB regular season, college baseball. Check out the College Baseball Experience podcast we do. Also the UFL football, spring football. There's a lot of avenues. PGA, MMA. Shit, you got the Triple Crown about to do some action here soon, and horse racing. So my bookie's the place you want to be for all that action. There's props for every game too, and the true DGens will love the MyBookie money bag. And look, MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of different locations, even outside of the states. You can easily deposit, get lightning fast payouts using crypto. So what are you doing? Head over to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code TCESGPN. That's our promo code for 100% off. I'm sorry, for 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply, of course. Once again, that's mybookie.ag. Promo code TCESGPN. All right, we are back talking SEC head coaches. Let's jump over to number 12, because at number 12, I had Clark Lea. What? Dundee, what the fuck? You're giving him too much love. I just want to remind the good people out there that Let me just see here. Let's just see when the last time Vanderbilt beat Alabama was. 1984. Right? 1984. They hadn't beat him in Nashville since 1969, by the way. He beat Alabama. Right? He beat Alabama. And I think there's a skill to this. To me, thinking outside the box is what exactly Clark Lea did. And maybe I am overrating it, but I am rewarding it here because they essentially run the triple option, but just out of the gun. And I think first couple of years, it was not working. He was on the hot seat. People thinking he's going to get fired. And he said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going out and hiring the whole goddamn team that just beat Auburn, all their coaching staff, and we're going to run this thing. And I'm going to go out just thinking this thing can work because I know he's a defensive coordinator. And we've had Bud Foster on this show. I've sat down with plenty of defensive coaches, but I asked Bud Foster this question. I said, Bud, and I think we have this on air too somewhere. He's been on a few times, but I go, which was the hardest team to prep for? Was McNabb at Syracuse? Was it the Miami Hurricanes with Andre Johnson and everybody? Was it Clemson when they were rolling? He's like, shit, no. He was like, Georgia Tech, Paul Johnson. He was like, you never get enough reps. You can never simulate that in practice. And they keep you guessing the entire game. If you step out of the spot for 1 second where you're supposed to be, if you're undisciplined for 1 second, it's an 80-yard touchdown. Now that was the full-on flex bone option, but Clark Lea and Vanderbilt are doing their own style of option that they picked up from New Mexico State, and before that was at Coastal Carolina. And I think credit to him for making those adjustments because I think a lot of coaches would be scared to do that. And I think some of them we've talked about on this episode that you're sitting there saying Sam Pittman might get fired. They're going to still trot out this offense. I would make transitions. I would do it. So that's my logic on putting Clark Lea ahead of the rest. I understand his record's dog shit. But first off, he's won at Vanderbilt. I think one of the hardest jobs in America is to win at Vanderbilt. And he's coming off a pretty damn good year. And not only was it they beat a Virginia Tech team, they beat some teams that spend money on football. So that's my logic on having Clark Lea that far up. Maybe I'm a fucking idiot, but I think it takes balls to go all in on something that no one else is doing. So anyway, at number 12, you got Billy Napier. So we completely disagree on Clark Lea and Billy Napier. We got him flipped. Talk to me about why you have Billy Napier at number 12.
I don't think you're giving him enough credit for Louisiana. In its last 3 years, he was 33-5. I know Louisiana, from a resources standpoint, is at the top, but 22-2 in Sun Belt games in his last 3 years. I thought he did what he was supposed to. He dominated that league. So won 3 straight bowl games, and I like the way they finished last year. I think he's a pretty good coach. I didn't think Florida was in the best spot when he took over that program. And then I think that they kind of took it on the chin, and I think that they showed up last year, the second half of the year, when their back was against the wall. So he showed me something last year. Now, got to get the quarterback healthy. Lagway, that's a big – I know people are just banking that he's going to be fully healthy, but that's a big, big time X factor because when he has not been the quarterback, this has been a bad program under Napier at Florida. So get him healthy, and then I think Florida can take another step this year. But the schedule's really hard as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, fair. That's the one thing. My judgment of the Louisiana thing, the record is the record, right? The record is the record. And I can't say 12-1 is 12-1. Now, I will say, watching those teams, I know, but to me, okay, I'm pulling up the 12-1, his final season before Florida hired him. He beat Nichols, the FCS, by 3, right? Georgia Southern 1-score game. South Alabama by 2, right? Arkansas State by 1. Georgia State by 4. 2 more 1-score games against ULM and App. Credit for winning these games, but I just thought, to me, I thought the defense is what won them the game, which was not his thing, right? But he's the head coach, so I mean, credit to him for having the defensive, personnel and staff together for doing that. But I just thought, and that's why if you go back and listen, when Florida hired him, I thought it was a dud. I was like, I don't think it's going to work out, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm going to die on that hill. I did think Napier's most impressive coaching job was last season over any of the ones at Louisiana, because Louisiana was recruiting way better than anybody in the whole fucking Sun Belt at the time, especially with all the FCS transitions that were, just happening over that tenure. So, I understand it though, because the record is the record. I can shit on it and question it, but he still went 12-1. He almost went damn near perfect. So.
And I know it's a COVID year, but he did beat Iowa State the year that where they went to the Big 12 title game. I know it was in Ames, but it was only 30% fans. But that's still beating a Big 12 team that was at the top of that league.
Yeah, no, he did a good job, and I think he almost knocked off Mississippi State one year at the Superdome. If memory serves, one of those years, it was close. I know that was close. So yeah, I mean, I could be a little harsh, but I'm saying, I don't know. I thought he was fortunate to be in that conference and in that side of the division, because I thought the East was the stronger division. At that time, to me, the entire West was kind of taboo. Troy was down. South Alabama was shit. ULM was shit. So it was Texas State was shit. So I just thought he was just beating up on all these shitty teams and barely doing it in many of those games. So I understand it though. I understand being high on Napier though. At number 11, I have Eli Drinkwitz. All right. Well, it's good that we're talking about,
he's a hard one to rank. I'm not going to lie.
This is why this episode's compelling, because this is a guy that did go 12-1 at App State the same year, or one of those years Napier went 11-2. But the thing was this: App State was rolling. Jerry Moore had it rolling. They passed it over to Satterfield. He kept it rolling. Pass it over to Drinkwitz. Kept it rolling. Even the first couple of years of Sean Clark, he kept it rolling before it did fall off. So he had 1 year as a head coach at App State. He was 12-1. Can't shit on that, but I tend to think that was more of the program than it was Eli Drinkwitz. Now, Eli Drinkwitz comes into Mizzou 5-5, 6-7. So 5-5 during COVID, first year. Then 6-7 losing season. 6-7 losing season. Then the past 2 years, 11-2 and 10-3. I don't believe those teams were that good, but they did go that was their record. But some of this to me was timing. Missouri was ahead of the NIL world. The state of Missouri, they changed laws right away. So Luther Burden was going to Mizzou. So other guys, the tackle that's going to get drafted in the first round tomorrow. I don't know how good of a coach he actually is. I still think the jury's out on him. When I watch the games, to me, his teams don't look super sharp to me. They just don't. In a way, it kind of reminds me of Brent Pry. Now, he still was able to get the wins, like the Boston College game a year ago. Perfect example. Now, they won that game, or the Kansas State game when they made that 63-yard field goal or something to win, or whatever it was. I thought the opposing team had outplayed them. So it's something about, to me, he's done a great job record-wise the past 2 years. I just don't think the teams are that good. And I just am like, man, he continuously gets out coached to me, but they're able to win games because Luther Burden or whoever, is making plays. But I mean, I can't believe he's 21-5 the past 2 years.
I know.
I really can't, because it makes me look foolish. But I'm like, I look at this, like the Vanderbilt game last year. Vanderbilt missed 3 fucking field goals. Vanderbilt was the better team, and Missouri stole that game to me, right? Any team with the pulse besides Vanderbilt, I mean, I guess they beat BC, but once again, I thought BC kind of outplayed them, right? They go to A&M, they lose 41-10, They go to Alabama 34-0. They go to South Carolina. Now that was a close game, but they lost. I just don't know how to evaluate them as like I look at their wins last year and it's like, first off, they got Boston College with a new head coach in week 3. Vanderbilt is the best win they had all year last year. And I don't think they should have won that game. I'm a skeptic still. I know the record is the record. So, I mean, it makes me look stupid. I get it, but I don't know. I'm curious to where you have them because I can look foolish here. You're saying 21-5 is, that's incredible at Mizzou, but I just don't think that's sustainable. And especially now that everyone's catching up to the NIL, I think timing Mizzou and Tennessee were way ahead of the NIL market, like the states, Missouri and Tennessee. And I think in a way it might have overvalued how good their coaches are. At number 11, you have Shane Beamer. Talk to me about your logic on having Coach Beamer at number 11.
Beamer ball. A lot of the same points you made. I feel like they've been up and down in his 4 years, but I also think when he took over for Muschamp didn't do a very good job. So I thought he did a good job energizing the program. I mean, they've won back-to-back games at Clemson in 22 and 24. That is
super impressive. I mean, those are wild games. One of them was, I think, an ass whooping, but the other one was wild.
He does a good job of energizing the fan base, and I thought that they finished the year super strong, winning six in a row to end the year after they should have beat Alabama the game before that. So he's kind of a hard guy to rank as well, just because it feels like he's a little bit of a boomerang. He goes 7 wins and up to 8, back down to 5, up to 9 last year. I would like to see a little more consistency, but I think that he does a good job energizing that fan base and that program. And like I said, you win at Clemson twice at 2-0, winning at Clemson, that means something there in Columbia.
That is a good point. I underestimated that.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good thing, specifically because minus Spurrier, I feel like they've got their ass whooped against Clemson over the past 30 years. If you throw out the Spurrier years, that's fair. That is fair. At number 10 is my guy, Sam Pittman. God damn it. He's top 10 coach. See, I think he walked into a disaster. And I thought that team, like you saw Brent Brennan and San Jose State come into Fayetteville and beat their ass with Chad Morris in his final year there. And then, so Pittman, I thought he inherited just a finesse bitch team, and it took him a year to toughen it up. After that 3-9 season, he had a 9-win season, won the Outback Bowl. Then he followed it up with a 7-win season. And then he did have that terrible 4-8 season, after they had lost their OC, some guys in the portal. Then he followed it up last year. Everyone was going to fire him. He goes 7-6, beats a top 10 Tennessee team. To me, I think he's done a pretty good job, especially considering, I do think there was a little bit of a financial crisis there. I think they were, putting basketball first. I still think they probably are, but I just think it's they continuously get fucked by their schedule. Like, the conference has a vendetta for their scheduling, in my opinion. I think it was 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago, they spent a month away from their home stadium. Now, one of those was a neutral site game, but that was in Texas, where they were playing Texas A&M. So I think he always gets a really tough schedule. In my opinion, he normally gets the toughest in the conference year in and year out. And I don't think that's I don't think that's ironic. I think that's on purpose. So that's my logic. I think he's a pretty good coach, and I wouldn't even have him on the fucking hot. If I was the AD, he wouldn't even be on the hot seat to me. But
it's Arkansas.
Well, Arkansas was a fucking great program for a long time back in the day before the SEC, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
The reality now is I think he's doing decently, and it'd be nice if he got one of these years, because there is that they're no longer conferences, I do think they're going to get a really nice schedule. Now the question is, will Sam Pittman be there? Probably not. We talked about it last night on our hot seat edition, but I tend to think, I think he gets a bad rap for no reason personally. Anyway,
I like Pittman. he just sometimes some of his game plans I feel like are a little bit questionable, and his timeout management down the stretch. But I'm pulling for him this year. Yeah,
I mean, look, he's an offensive line coach. Sometimes there's some shortcomings in that regard, but he has road rash face Bobby Petrino with him, and they were solid last year, man. At number 10 for you, you had Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops is an interesting one because his conference record is fucking horrible.
Yeah. He's not in the MAC. His MAC record is fucking fire. He's like 70-0 against the MAC.
Well, it's an interesting one because he did raise the bar of that program. Like they sell out games now. They have under Calipari. Remember this question? Calipari was pissed off because they're saying they're becoming a football school, and he's like, "We're always a basketball school," and they always are a basketball school in my mind. But I recently did a spot on a Kentucky podcast, and we were talking about this. I do think like nowadays, day and age, like why can't they be a force in football with the pay for play and the system's more equal for every other team. And he's built them where I actually feel like they have expectations. That might be to his own detriment in the next, 12 months. But I find him an interesting character to break down. Yeah, well, because
and I was going to say, is he built for the new era? He kind of feels reluctant a little bit to completely buy in and adapt. Even though, to your point, Kentucky should be a good portal team. I mean, we're watching in basketball. He's paid $20 fucking million for a basketball team. They can give a couple million to the football team too. He's only had one winning record or two winning seasons in the SEC since he took over in 2013. He does a great job of beating the teams he's supposed to, and he benefited from a long time of those divisions. He was great against the SEC East. So
he did.
I get to your point. He did not lose the duds. He never lost. He does a good job against Louisville for the most part. So like they usually were 4-0 in the non-con, and then he was scratching and clawing for 2 or 3 wins, get that bonus, move on to the next year. That's why I think he's perfect at 10th. He's just okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated to see what happens this year, and if he retires, it's not going to be that fascinating. But if they force him out the door, it will be quite fascinating because you can argue that he built the fan buy-in, and
he's only 57.
But his dad, Bob Stoops, I know he's coaching the UFL. But one of the things is, his dad passed away, I believe, on the sideline. So I know that's a factor. It was for Bob. So maybe it would be with Mark or Mike. But yeah. Folks, before we get to number 9, I'll let you know that the college football experience is part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. I love me some Underdog Fantasy. Not only am I saying that because it's our sponsor, I genuinely love it. I play it all the fucking time. I think there's an edge you can't find elsewhere. Played it with UFL over the weekend. Always playing in MLB and college football, college hoops. They have every sport too. It's just those are the ones that I normally see. I even do fucking CFL with it. So they dig deep there, and there's an edge I really believe you can't find elsewhere. So sign up, and when you do, use our promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm is your home for AI-backed picks and props, and Rhythm has new models dropping. They're live now for Major League Baseball. Plus, they got models for NBA and golf. I know we use some of their models for college hoops and college football. Picks so good it feels like cheating. And building your own model is simple and easy. And that's what I love, building my own, making it mine. I don't like to just copy someone else's homework unless it's, back to school. But look, Rhythm has some amazing deals going on now. 25% off your monthly subscription with the promo code SGPN25 and 50% off the annual subscription with the promo code SGPN50 over at Rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50. All right, we are back on the College Football Experience SEC coaching rankings, and we're all over the place here. I like this. In the middle of it, I feel like just boom. I think we agreed on one so far.
Yeah, we're in the ball. I mean, we're in the ballpark of a lot of these guys. It's what you value. Yeah.
Shout out to Bama1 in the chat. How you doing, Colby? Been a while. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Roll Tide. Let's go. YouTube.com/the college experience. Jump on in the chat. It's always fun to come kick it, hang out with us. We talk college football year round. We talk college hoops year round, college baseball, everything on the college experience. Even Frozen 4 we talked about this year. All right, next up at number 9, I have Hugh Strip Club Freeze. I know I'm starting to say this for a few coaches. I said it for Stoops. I said it for Beamer. Hugh Freeze is a very interesting one to me.
High variance.
I don't know how good of a football coach he is. When you look at, first off, a lot of his former players do not vouch for him, which is interesting. Another thing is they were paying players before everyone else. Ole Miss was. So like his greatest run was at Ole Miss. And I think it was notorious because he beat Saban a couple games there and just played Saban really tough. But they were definitely buying a bunch of players that now you still have to win the games or play the games. And he played, he was a pretty damn good coach in certain spots. My thing has been, he kind of lacks consistency. Now he goes to Liberty, does well there, but Liberty plays like their football program is like triple the other team in the Conference USA or independent. So I don't even know what to deduce from that. You know what I mean? Like each coach has been fire at Liberty for the past decade. And now he comes to Auburn where he struggled. But my thing is he comes at a time where everyone can pay. So is his edge gone? I think it might be. I still picked him 9th because I thought, man, he did have success at Liberty. He did have success at Ole Miss, even though he was cheating his ass off and being a complete scumbag, throwing it on Houston nut. But I'm fascinated. I actually think this is the one I could be most wrong on, because I think there could be a path that this guy's not that good of a football coach. And I think there could be a path that this guy, he gets fired after this year and then he lands at some other spot and he doesn't do well there. Cause this day and age, I just don't, with everyone being able to pay, it changes the rules on maybe that was your edge. I know a lot of SEC teams were cheating. You still won those games, but they were really cheating. You know what I mean? I don't know. I thought I was being generous in a way by saying 9th based on his resume. Curious where you have him. Oh, you also have him at 9th.
I was going to say, just turn over the page. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Was he good at Liberty? Yeah. But Chadwell's been really good at Liberty. Everybody should be good at Liberty with how much money they invest at that program. They run it like a high major program. You go to Ole Miss. He gets a lot of credit because he beat Saban back-to-back years. And that does mean something. I mean, when you
that's why Auburn, it spoke to Auburn right from the start.
Exactly. So, but in his last 2 years, he's 5-11 in the SEC. You lose to Cal at home at Auburn. I mean, that's not a game you should lose. And they've had some duds here. And he's supposed to be an offensive guy. Their offense was way up and down last year, especially at the quarterback position. So this is a big year for Freeze. I think 9th is more than fair. Maybe even a little too high, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating one. I want to see if he can turn that corner. If he can, more power to him. But I do think there's validity in what we're saying is like he was able to get some real studs at Ole Miss that they weren't getting before.
He's very up and down.
Probably maybe the most interesting one on this whole thing. Number 8, I do have Mark Stoops, and the reason why I think I ranked him a little higher to you is because I just know how bad that program was before. Now, I think Rich Brooks was the first guy to get fan interest involved, but Stoops took that tiny bit of interest and maximized it. Now, yes, did he finagle the system? Sure. They play a bunch of MAC schools and Youngstown State in the non-con, but credit to him for owning the Louisville rivalry in state, because I think some of the buy-in is that. And then to me, the fans have gotten on board with Kentucky potentially being a football school. And that was always what they needed. So I know his record is shitty within the SEC. I know the SEC East is done. There's no longer divisions, which makes me think Stoops might not be the guy for the future. But they wouldn't be in the spot they're in now, caring about football, having players in the NFL without Mark Stoops. I think he develops players pretty decently too. I question some of the quarterback moves, but I think he develops players pretty decently. I had a hard time with him though, but I mean, I feel like I sound like a fucking broken record saying that with everybody, but Stoops is interesting because like he still beat like the Ole Miss team last year on the road. I know. You know, like they have games where they show up sometimes. I think he's a solid football coach. And, but I also think, if I'm being completely honest, I think if I was the athletic director, I would probably move along. I know that sounds crazy because you're like, wait a second, you should build a statue, and we will build a statue, I'll say. But
the times are changing.
Right now is the perfect time. He built this thing. He got this thing. It was down here. He got it up here. Now you need to go get a coach that can take it up here. And I don't think he's capable. Maybe John Summerall, Neil Brown. That's the names everyone's saying. But I tend to think if he had a losing season this year, I would probably, if I was in charge, I would probably say, hey, man, it's been fun. I know you flirted with that A&M job. Now go take the UTSA job. All right. So
you went from the A&M coach to being, he's done after this year. What a difference in years.
That is true. I mean, honestly, like he deserves, like, just because the fan buy-in, he probably deserves a longer leash. But I just think, like, right now you got to strike while the iron's hot. The SEC just added Oklahoma and Texas. It's not getting any easier.
No.
You voted yes on adding Oklahoma and Texas, not necessarily Stoops, but the administration. I'm assuming.
More money, more problems.
Yeah. At number 8 for you, you have Eli Drinkwitz. Okay, explain to me this one. I know he's 23 and what did I say? 23.
23 and 5.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry Odom was very average for 4 years leading up to this, and I know it took Drinkwitz 3 years to get it going, but it's hard to argue 21 and 5. I know the schedule's been nice the last couple of years, but 21 and 5 in the SEC, I got to tip my cap to him, and he does have a 12 and 1 at App State as a little bit of a kind of a wild card. I know everybody wins at App State, but it's still 12 and 1. I'm interested to see if they can build on it this year with the harder schedule, because they have gotten some breaks, but 21 and 5 is 21 and 5. I did not see this coming from Missouri 2 years ago. I was like, oh, he's fired. Now
I'm telling you, man, the NIL thing.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how this pans out, because they were way ahead of a lot of other states.
Yeah, they were all in.
They were letting them pay kids in high school.
Yep.
So they were able to take that talent out of St. Louis that normally goes to Alabama, normally goes to other schools, and say, no, you sign here. We're going to start paying you now.
Yep.
Now a lot of other states have caught up. It's going to be interesting. My biggest thing is in the big games. He's kind of been a dud.
They get drilled. Yeah, they get drilled. Like what was it this year at A&M? I mean, that wasn't even
his best win is against Ohio State in a bowl game where like their whole team sat out. Remember?
Their whole team opted out. He beat Tennessee one year impressively. Like they beat the the shit out of Tennessee, I think 2 years ago. What was it? I mean, they lost.
That's probably his best actual win. I mean, I know they'll say Ohio State, but no one played for Ohio State that game.
Yeah, I mean, this year he does a good job of beating who he's supposed to beat. Yeah, he beat Tennessee by 30 at home. That was his best win. And then
year they almost lost to Middle Tennessee, dude. Stockstill almost got him. That's what I'm saying. Like, to me, when I watch, I go,
that K-State game, the 60-yard field goal,
ridiculous.
Really got the
Can't
momentum.
believe they won that fucking game, dude.
The K-State game?
Yeah. I thought K-State outplayed them, but they stole it. K-State was dumb enough down the stretch. Yeah. So
that really got the momentum for their program. Because at the time, it was like, oh, K-State's going to beat them. Missouri sucks. And then ever since then, Missouri 21-5. So, by the way, I think 1 through 7, we have all the same. It's just a different orders.
That's pretty remarkable there. Let's talk about that. Because at number 7, I have Steve Sarkisian. What? This is the one I expect to get the most hate on.
I don't,
because I listen to a lot of other football podcasts, and I'm fascinated when they have Sark as like some fucking prophet. Like, okay, I will say this to start. It does take a special personality to win at Texas. There's a lot of boosters. That's why Mac Brown was perfect for the gig. It's like it's almost like being a fucking politician, right? I'm sure that is very challenging in probably ways I don't see. But I can't help but think whether it was Washington. Now, he did get Washington back to where they should be. But once again, I don't know how good that is, because I think anybody could have gotten them. He got like Washington back to being like a ranked team.
Yep.
But Washington was really good under a lot of coaches. Neuheisel had it rolling. Don James had it rolling. The guy after Don James, drawing a blank on his name. Peterson had it rolling. DeBoer had it rolling. I don't know how much to deduce from that. USC, I'm sorry, he failed at USC greatly. Now, I know some of that was his alcohol problems, which we share that, Coach. And cheers. But he should have won more. And to me, even at Texas, like, yeah, you've gone to the playoffs back-to-back years. I was just doing our draft, for tomorrow night's show. I was doing all the slides and everything. And I'm like, I thought they should have been better with the talent they had on their team and the way they spend in the NIL era. I actually thought they got out-coached by Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. They were fortunate to get past that. Now, I actually think his best coaching game might have been that Ohio State game, which they lost. But I don't know what to deduce from this. Like, to me, like his teams, to me, I know that some people say, well, look at, he can scheme up some offensive plays, and he can. But I also feel like his teams are also oftentimes not super prepared. I mean, Arizona State was projected to finish dead last. Now, they got past Arizona State, but they did everything they could get. And to me, when I look at both teams on paper, Texas should have beat Arizona State by 30. I think that's what I mean when I talk about Sark, is like, the world seems to be more in love with them, especially the college football people that I tend to run into at media days and stuff. I'm not there on it. He's got to prove it to me. I mean, this is where, like, the Harbaugh thing, you get on third base. He's been at 3 national championship winning programs in my lifetime.
He's gotten every break.
Yes.
He's,
and I don't know why should we just Texas, in my opinion, Texas should always win a national championship. They spend, especially in this day and age where they spend more, they have more money than every other fucking school on the planet. That's why all these SEC schools are dumb to let them in to a certain extent. You also can make a lot of money because they're the University of Texas, but yeah, I don't think he's some great coach. I really don't. He's got to prove it to me. Is it possible he could in the future? 100%. I just don't think they're that great. And I think they've been blessed with a nice schedule too.
Yep.
SEC did him a solid last year. We'll see how it is moving forward because that thing will heat up. You start losing some games against a tougher schedule. Yeah. You have their rival, Mike Elko, who he did. Sark is 1-0 against Elko, 17-7 win in College Station. Talk to me about why you have Mike Elko at number 7.
If we had done this list a year ago, I probably would have had Elko like 3. First off, I'm an Elko fan. I think he's a hell of a defensive coach. He brings a level of toughness, and I thought he did change the culture a little bit, but I did not like the way they finished that year last year. Maybe that's still a little bit in the back of my head. Maybe I'm overreacting to Manny Diaz walking into Duke and finding a way to go 9-3 as well.
But some of that could be Elko's culture. So often you see
he lost Riley Leonard though. I mean, Elko had Riley Leonard, and Diaz didn't.
True. Yeah. But so often you see a great coach leave, and then the first year or two, the other coach does fine, and then it's that third, fourth year where the things start falling apart. But anyway, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I think you make good points, and I think Elko a year from now could be in my top 3 again. If he gets him to the playoff, they should go to the playoff with how much money they spend on football. I thought that it was going to be unlike Jimbo last year. Felt like a Jimbo year. I'm not going to lie, I think he's a way better coach than Jimbo. But they finished like a Jimbo team did, 8-5. Underachieved, didn't win, didn't beat the teams that they were supposed to. Notre Dame at home, Texas at home.
Kind of at least win one of those. I was shocked. I was shocked that he lost both.
At least score. Like they score set like 10 points in the combined 2 games. Points. And then to get blown out at South Carolina on the road and then lose at Auburn the way they did. I mean, he could flip this narrative real quick in 1 year, but off the data points, 3 years, I thought he did a really, really good job at Duke, changing that culture. Then A&M a little bit of a dud last year down the stretch. I think 7's a good spot for Elko, but I think he's a good coach, like I keep saying. I'm pulling for him. I like his brand of football.
Yeah. At number 6, I got Josh Heupel.
Ooh.
All right, so here's my thing. It's a lot of the Drinkwitz shit. So, first off, I commend Josh Heupel for the way he handled the Nico situation.
He should be number 1.
And a lot of people, if you know me, I was a huge fan of the Heupel 2000 Oklahoma team that won the national championship. Mike Leach recruit. Mike Leach was a dear friend of ours, and I want to root for Josh Heupel. I want to root for him. But I also think he walked into UCF at the perfect time. Frost had just like built that thing, and he comes in at 12-1. Probably would have went 13. I mean, could have went 13-0 had Mackenzie Milton not gotten injured. Then 10-3, and then 6-4, and then he's gone. And I was like, "Whoo!" I gotta be honest. Go back and listen. I questioned that hire by Tennessee, but I will say he followed the athletic director Danny White from UCF to Tennessee, and Danny White's a proven really good athletic director. He hired Nate Oates at Buffalo, but he surprised me because year 1, 7-6. It's kind of what I expected. Then boom, that 11-2. They take the fucking goalpost. They beat Bama. They take that thing to the Tennessee River. Awesome. Follows it up with a 9-win season. Better than I thought. Last season, they make the playoffs. Okay, this is definitely making me look like a fool. But I also think they were ahead of the NIL curve. And I wonder if that's actually, if they're going to come back to life now. I also think they had a great schedule past 2 years, right? Considering they're in the SEC. I know the SEC schedule can be challenging, but I thought they had one of the more favorable schedules the past couple of years. I still don't know how good, and I said this last year when Tennessee made the playoffs, I was like, I don't even know how good they are. I really didn't. That's why my number one lock of the playoffs. I was like, Ohio State's going to fuck up Tennessee. No, I'm no Einstein for that take, but I'm just saying. I just watching them. I didn't believe that Tennessee was some great team a year ago. Right now, they made the playoffs. They won the games they had to do. Had to win, but they lost to an Arkansas team. That I guess I gave praise to, but a lot of people did not give praise to. I mean, you looked at the other games. To me, NC State was a fucking joke. ECU proved that to them in the bowl. Kent State. Like they still beat Bama, and that's the one thing I think you really have to give them credit for is they have started to swing back in that rivalry. For so many years, they were getting dominated. They've won, I think, 2 of 3. I did not have that one coming. So in that regard, I am very impressed with Josh Heupel, but I still just wonder how good these teams really are. And I think 6th is a good ranking in the SEC. I don't think it's like, I know you can make the case for him being much higher, but I also think you can make the case that with the NIL, like what's the difference between him and Drink? Drink's won, two great seasons, 2 back-to-back double-digit win seasons. Shit, Heupel hasn't done that yet. So, I don't know. I feel like the NIL was more of the perfect timing. Like I feel like anybody they brought in would have cranked it up with the NIL that was coming in. Like with the changing landscape of the sport. And some of the state laws and stuff, I felt like they were ahead of a lot of other states. So in that regard, I think that was a great advantage for Josh Heupel. He still won the games. And to me, the Alabama thing is pretty profound. So at your number 6, you have Lane Kiffin.
I love Lane.
He's already saying we need a bigger playoff. I'm with you, Lane. We've been arguing this for 20 years over here. So, tell me why you have Lane at 6.
I mean, I think Lane's a good coach. I think Lane, really good offensively. They're creative. I just feel like sometimes with Lane's teams, they're unprepared. Whether it was the Kentucky game this year, or other games where they've dropped a game here or there. What was it? I mean, they used to get drilled in the Georgia and Alabama games until they finally started addressing the physicality aspect at Arkansas and then Mississippi State a couple years. I felt like they were favored in those games and they dropped it down the stretch. I think he's a good coach. I just feel like he's also had pretty good jobs at USC. He had a really talented team. They underachieved when they were preseason number 1 at Tennessee. He was 7-6. FAU, I mean, 2 10-win seasons, but had a 5-7 in there. He's a little bit inconsistent. But with that said, I think the portal's perfect for a guy like Lane Kiffin. Back-to-back 10+ win seasons, 3 out of 4 years. I think he's a good coach. I can't put him in that Kirby Smart class just because I feel like his teams are inconsistent sometimes, and they usually do play a powder puff non-con.
Fair. So I think Lane is an interesting one because Ole Miss had kind of struggled with Luke right before him, and he got it back and going. And I do think he learned a lot of that watching Saban and also what he did at Florida Atlantic. I think what he did at Florida Atlantic is more impressive than what Josh Heupel did at UCF because Florida Atlantic didn't have that history, and he won double-digit 2 out of the 3 seasons, double-digit win seasons. But I also I do agree that consistency is an issue, is a big issue.
He's entertaining. He's definitely one of the best characters in the game too. The way he used to troll Saban.
100%. I know he was tight with our friend Leach, but it's we'll see where I have him. Oh, at number 5. Oh, I do have Lane Kiffin.
This is where he should be. I think He's a really good coach that is knocking on the door of getting to that top tier, but he just can't get there yet.
So I think it's a great debate, Kiffin or Heupel, because I think you could say, well, Heupel's got to the playoffs. He's also gotten Alabama. Kiffin doesn't really fuck with Alabama. However, I think Heupel's in the much better situation financially, like to pay players, even though Ole Miss did cough up coin for their roster last year. I just think it's harder. Tennessee has a little more winning culture. You know, I feel like just that alone, they also are the only P5 in the state, really. I mean, Vandy's a private school, but you know, they're not getting top 10 recruits and stuff. I think it's a good, my theory. I mean, I put him and Heupel like neck and neck. I just think I would like to see Heupel without the influx of money that Tennessee has. And I think it's more impressive what Kiffin did coming into Ole Miss and also what he did at FAU than what Heupel had did at UCF and then just jumping into a team that has won a national championship in my life. So that was my logic there. You at number 5 have Sark. Curious, you 2 spots ahead of me. Why do you have Sark at number 5? That's still surprising. I think a lot of people would say, what the fuck? How is he number 5?
I'm not going to lie. I fell into that initially. I was like, oh, Kirby, then Sark. And I go, wait a minute. Sark, when you actually peel back and look into Sark, 2 years ago, we did the Big 12 exercise of ranking the coaches. We had like Sark 13 out of 16 because at that time he had a losing record at Texas. They've been on a magical run the last 2 years at Texas, but they've also had a shitload of talent. Like their rosters have been so far above the other rosters. And to your point, they've gotten out coached in some of these bigger games, whether it was Oklahoma, Red River 2 years ago. I thought DeBoer out coach circles around him in the playoff game when Washington beat him. USC, he was up and down. I know you already talked about his personal reasons. He's had really good jobs in Washington as well. So I think he's
they lost to Kansas too one time when a 1 or 2 win Kansas team. Don't forget that, people.
Yeah, after 2 years in the Big 12, he was 13 and 13 or 13 and 12. And I know everybody will say he had to rebuild the program. Texas didn't need that much.
Fuck off. That program is a turnkey fucking program.
Herman wasn't chopped liver. Herman,
he won like 10 games, right? Yeah. Didn't he like a year removed from 10 games?
Yeah, Herman was winning 8-9 games every year. His best year was the COVID year that they had a couple tough breaks down the stretch. So I don't want to hear the whole rebuild with Sark, but he's 25-5 over the last 2 years, back-to-back semis. I give him credit for taking Texas into the SEC, winning the regular season, getting to the title game. So I think 5th is fair, but I do agree. Nationally, he is overrated. He's not on the Kirby Smart level. Stop that. That's not you're not even close.
I actually think nationally he's probably the most overrated coach in the country.
100%.
Yeah.
They still underachieved. They had the best roster last year.
I agree. I mean, I think
short.
Now they did lose to Ohio State, and I do think you could argue that Ohio State would be the one you would argue as best roster. So in that regard, fair enough. But I thought they should have lost to Arizona State. I thought Arizona State outplayed them, outcoached them.
100%.
So yeah.
And Kirby, I thought Kirby outcoached him twice. Kirby beat him with the backup quarterback.
Oh, Kirby, and they whooped their ass at Darrell K. Royal in Austin. Yeah.
They made the game physical, and then he beat him with once Beck went down with Gunner. Gunner's first ever game.
I like this. All right, let's go to number 5 for. Wait, did I fuck this up? Oh, no, I hit backwards. Number 4 for me is Mike Elko. This one I can understand the reaction, but I want to preface it. It was a disappointing first year for me in College Station, but I also think he'll figure that out. I'm not going to judge him by that. I'm going to judge him for, to me, what he did at Duke, and I'm also going to judge him for I thought one of the most profound things he did was when he was defensive coordinator with Dave Clawson. And we did it on a few different episodes a couple of years ago. You look at the numbers when he was at Wake Forest with with Clawson. Then he was at Bowling Green with Clawson. He was at Richmond with Clawson. When he leaves those schools, which he all did, I believe, the numbers go from he had Wake Forest is like a top 35 defense. He leaves, they go to 97th, right? And don't forget the 1 year A&M with Jimbo, their best year the past decade.
Yeah.
Elko was the DC.
The 10-1 year, yeah. Yeah,
he was the DC. I think he's the right guy. I think he's a great fucking coach. I trust. Yeah. It was disappointing. I thought you'd beat either Notre Dame or Texas, or maybe even both. But you walked into a brand new team. Also, I believe their quarterback went down for a few games there. I think that also played a role. You also went, and this would be his fault, but he went to an OC that I didn't see coming. Now, I still think that can work. They just got to understand each other a little more. But I think that he's the right guy for the job. And I'm sorry, to me, what he did at Duke, I thought was one of the best coaching jobs in the past 5 years, 10 years. They were so fucking prepared. They looked so prepared. Now, they didn't look all that way against SEC teams this year, but I think that will be coming this upcoming season. So I'm not going to panic at 1 year. I think he's a really good football coach. And I'm going to, I honestly would like to even hire. Last season kind of made me forced to pick him at 4th or 5th. So, but I think he's a hell of a good football coach. And I think in the coming years, he'll be rising up this chart.
No pushback. And by the way, a common trend, Dave Clawson hires really good coaches. There's been a couple names on this list that are SEC sitting head coaches that have worked for him. So he's an underrated, I know how much you love him, but he's an underrated coach nationally.
Yeah. And hopefully he comes back to the college game. I know he hates it right now, right? He hates it right now, but I want to see him back. Come to the FCS again, Dave. Folks, check out the FCS college football experience as well. Look at number 4 for you. You have Kalen DeBoer. DeBoer. Everyone says it differently. What's the logic here on KD at number 4?
A year ago, he probably would have been 2 for me. Hard one to fucking rank because we just gave him an F the other night on the coaching rank. So I feel like I have to knock him down a spot or 2. I like him. I'm a fan of what he did at Washington, at Fresno, at Indiana as an offensive coordinator, at Sioux Falls. I think he's a really good coach. I just don't know if it's the right fit at Alabama, especially having to follow up in Nick Saban's footsteps. So I know I'm crucifying him for going 9-4, but I think context matters too. They were outcoached in the Vanderbilt game, and I had Lee down there at 15. Lee had a game plan. Jerry Kill, they stuck it to him. Josh Heupel, I thought they out-executed them. And then Venables, I thought
that was the most surprising. The Heupel one I could have actually seen and called, but the Venables one,
Sharon Moore.
Actually, the Vanderbilt one. I took Vandy, but I'm saying I guess all of them were surprising, but to a certain extent. But Sharon Moore, yeah, that one was fucking crazy. The B team of Michigan just taking it to Bama. Yeah. You got him at 4. Me, I got him at 3. So we're close there. My thing is this, man. Okay, he came into a team that had Jalen Milroe. And you had a one-off with Milroe. He had the benefit the years prior of having his quarterbacks for a while. Penix was with him at Indiana, transferred over to Washington for 2 years. Before that at Fresno, he had been with the guys for a little bit. So I do think that was a little bit of their problems and also Ryan Grubb, their offensive coordinator, is now back with him, by the way. But I trust. I think he is a really good coach. I'm a little concerned about the defense moving forward. The defense has to step up. NIL has changed the game. I think Alabama's 80s screaming for money. In this day and age, I don't think they're going to have near the dominance. And I think that will come with him probably eventually losing his job. But I don't think that means he's a bad coach. To me, I trust that he's one of the best coaches in this conference. I saw him at all these stops. Even at Eastern Michigan, he was part of that Chris Creighton team that turned around in the MAC. I think he's a really, really fucking good coach. And I think he's better. I think he's a better football coach than all the ones I mentioned prior, with the exception of maybe Mike Elko. Like, I think we saw DeBoer shit on Sark with a transfer portal roster 2 years ago.
In the South, the game
they never trailed. Yeah, they threw for like 10,000 yards that game, right? So, I don't know how anyone has Sark above DeBoer based on that and based off of some of the other things. Taking Washington to the national championship. Oh, he was at Washington. Guess what? Steve Sarkisian was too. So yeah, I got him at 3. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at number 2 after this year or in the coming years, maybe even number 1. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they fire him this year because I thought he was insane for taking the gig. To me, that was the dumbest. I know it's Alabama. A lot of people have dreams. It's a football school first, but I also think following Saban, no fucking thank you. He should have went to A&M. That would have made a lot more sense to me. But
I was going to say, if he gets fired, whenever it is, he'll be a great coach in the Big 10 or Big 12.
Yeah, and Weehawk says you've seen what he's done in multiple spots, but the casual Bama fan can't get that. What do they think? Yeah, he's not going to last because the casual Bama fan. It's like, oh, this fucking Seattle guy coming here with their goddamn fucking tofu, right? And then they walk in here and they're fucking passing the ball and going for 4th downs. He is 1-0 against Kirby Smart, though.
I know. That's what was crazy. They were number 1 in the country at one point last year. We need to get Alabama back to the Mike Shule era. We just need these fuckers need to get humbled a little bit. You guys don't walk completely on water. It's Saint Nick ain't walking through that door. Get over it.
Yeah. I mean, you had an amazing run.
Pay players now too.
Yeah, deal with some losses, motherfuckers. All right.
We went 9-4.
Yeah. You got Josh Heupel at number 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree. Like, I think DeBoer is a better coach than Josh Heupel, but I mean, tell me why you have him at number 3.
So this might be our age showing here. The difference in our age, because in my lifetime, I grew up like Fulmer had Tennessee at the back end. Like, I was young. It was the back end of Fulmer's era. When me growing up though, Dooley was awful. Butch Jones was okay. Pruitt was awful. I've known Tennessee to be an average team that could not break through. The 1 year of Lane Kiffin, and I know Brady Hoke had a couple games as well. I just think Heupel has changed the culture there at Tennessee. He broke through. I knew the schedule was a little bit light, but he also broke through in a big time when he beat Alabama, when he beat Nick Saban. And I put a lot of stock into that. The cigar game. He's done it with different quarterbacks, Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, and now Nico, who's gone. Now he's going to try and do it with Aguilar. I know that they had a nice schedule, but I think he's changed the culture there. 11 wins 3 years ago, 9 wins 2 years ago, and then 10 wins last year. Gets to a playoff. I'm a big fan of Josh Heupel just over these last couple of years of bringing Tennessee back to where this program should be.
Fair. I mean, look, and that part of my ranking that I probably unfairly judged was the timing. I just thought, man, that's not his fault. You're just taking the fucking coaching gig. It just aligned with you, So, what are you supposed to do? That doesn't mean you're a bad fucking coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I still had him ranked, I think, good, but yeah. I mean, we'll see. I think, to me, I think DeBoer's been to the fucking national championship with Washington. I think that's better than anything Tennessee's done. Yeah. But hey, I mean, this is the fun of it. It's subjective. No one's right. No one's wrong. unless you talk to me after another whiskey. But
all right, Sark is down to 8 now.
Yeah. At number 2. God, I keep going backwards. At number 2, I got Brian Kelly and his family. Look, I tend to think Kalen DeBoer and Mike Elko, whom, by the way, Mike Elko responsible for a lot of wins at Notre Dame with Brian Kelly. I tend to think they're going to pass Brian Kelly. I have a hard time with Kelly because he was so good at Grand Valley State. He was so good at Central Michigan and Cincinnati, but he was also, he's definitely not a player's coach. And
he's an asshole.
Yeah, he's quit on his team a couple times. Yeah. And I don't know that this, I didn't like the hire from the start. I thought it was a weird fit. Like, I think he's a good football coach. I am ranking him number 2 because I think he is a good football coach. And Notre Dame was terrible before him. But I also think there's limits. He has to prove it to me in these big games because he's been losing big games at the FBS level since he came there, right? FBS level. Grand Valley State, he did fantastic. But I also think, like, you're never going to be horrible with Brian Kelly.
Never.
You know what I mean? Like, I think he's good at what he does. So it was a very, like, I think based on Elko's first year and DeBoer's first year within the SEC, I had to have Kelly. Kelly went to the SEC championship his first year in the conference. Do I also look back at that time period and say, man, they had Jaden Daniels and you didn't do shit? Sure. Yeah. But I think you have to, based off his resume at all the places he's been, I think you have to rank him number 2. I expect this to change in the next, probably a year from now when we're doing this. I expect him to be 3 or 4. Maybe I'm wrong though. Nussmeier's back. I can't help but notice that you also have Brian Kelly and his family.
Yeah.
At number 2.
Listen, I think the biggest compliment I can give Brian Kelly is I hope LSU doesn't fire him and I hope Pitt doesn't hire him because I think he is a really good coach. And to your point, the floor is always going to be extremely high with Brian Kelly. Last year was like the floor, 9-4. That's kind of the floor with Brian Kelly. I got his resume pulled up over here. In the last 7 years at Notre Dame and at LSU, 10-3, 12-1, 11-2, 10-2, 11-1, 10-4, 10-3, 9-4. Like, he's always in that 2 to 3 loss range.
LSU doesn't want that shit though.
I know. Well, yeah. That's the problem with Brian Kelly though. That's why he's ranked number 2. He cannot win the big game to get him to the number 1 spot. So yeah, he's a guy that and he went 12-0 his last year at Cincinnati, then bolted on his team. He was great at Grand Valley State, to your point as well. I think he's a really, really good coach. He's an ass. And he fakes his accent and he's got a little bit of phony to him, but you can't deny he's a good football coach. It's not about winning a beauty contest here. It's about winning football games. And the guy, I guarantee you will win 9 or 10 football games, maybe 11 next year again. I
mean, but LSU won't fuck around. Ask Orge around, man.
Correct.
Like,
yeah. He
2 years removed. Get the fuck out of here, man.
If he goes 9-3 and they miss the playoff, he might be gone. And that's crazy, but that's LSU too. So
well, they expect national championships, and Brian Kelly has yet to deliver. Now, I know that's an insane thing because
Notre Dame went.
That makes it worse. If Notre Dame looks better without Brian Kelly. Yeah. And I think that is very compelling moving forward. Don't let Notre Dame make it again and LSU not, because then I think
never left Notre Dame. He was perfect there.
Yeah. So Deer in the Cage, number 1, Kirby Smart for me. Kirby Smart for you.
You can't argue this one.
Yeah. Now you could, if I had to build the case for the argument, it would be Kirby Smart, who's a former Georgia Bulldog himself, but I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't know that this is my personal opinion. I don't think
game
it is.
Management? Are you going to go the game management route?
No. I'm just going to say, did he benefit from an era where Georgia pays players under the table, and now that it's equal, they haven't been the same?
The Saban thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, You have to ask that question. Now, at the same time, you could say, well, when Mark Rick was at Georgia, they were good. They couldn't get over the hump, and Kirby Smart walks right in and he does. His defenses are fucking good. He's a legit good coach. He's my number one ranked coach, but I also think you can say that that last national championship, the blowout against TCU, was probably the last year I think you could win with the old system.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you're looking for the challenges, now that everyone can pay, have they dropped off a tier? And I think they have, but I also think you're bound to drop off a little bit of a tier. They didn't drop much. Drop much. And I expect them to get back up to that tier he had at some point, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whether it's the year after. I think he's a damn good football coach. I really do. But I do think that's a valid point if you had someone challenging this. What do you think?
Well, and it should be noted, they probably win 3 in a row if we have the playoff this last year, 2 years ago. They lost one fucking game, and it was to Alabama in the Georgia Dome. Like, they ran the table the whole year, and they lost one game, and then them and Florida State were left out. And then they beat Florida State by a billion, zillion points in that Orange Bowl. So like they went on a run there where they lost 2 games in 3 years. And then last year was a little bit of a drop off. Maybe you could say it was Carson Beck, and we're hearing rumblings out there. I do agree with you. Maybe that they did benefit just like Saban did from an era where they could play by different rules. Kind of like Kansas, maybe in the basketball side, and some of those blue blood.
That could be a very good comparison. Is Bill Self at Kansas? Now, I'm not saying it's accurate, but for drama and show sake, you look at it right now and you say maybe there could be validity there. I think he's a fucking good football coach. I think he'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
But it is valid to say that, though. And that begs, we've just given our top 6 or ranked all 16 SEC coaches. And that's the one thing that I will say by doing this exercise. And I want to pose this question to you. With the level playing field across the college landscape, now anybody can pay. I look at the SEC and I'm like, obviously Saban's gone. Leach is gone. Mullen was at Florida. I don't know if that's, some people think Napier's still an upgrade. I don't, but, I mean, there's other coaches that have left. I mean, Jimbo had won a national championship. Say what you want about him. A lot of people look at College Station as a disaster under his tenure.
Urban Meyer way back in the day.
Yeah. But one of the things I thought about doing this exercise, I don't know how good their coaches are right now. Like, sure, Kirby Smart is, I think, a fantastic coach. Kalen DeBoer, I think, is a fantastic coach. Brian Kelly, like, I'm talking about like top 4, 5. I feel pretty good about. But I also think you could ask yourself the question of, like, I know some of the other conferences don't have the resources the SEC does, but could they have better coaching? I think it's a fair thing to talk about. On and especially the Big Ten. I mean, they look at the Big Ten. You compare the Big Ten now. Harbaugh's gone, but you look at Ryan Day, who finally got that monkey off his back, won a national championship. James Franklin, who was once an SEC coach. Dan Lanning, who was part of that success at Georgia.
You could argue they haven't been the same since Lanning left. Exactly,
and then Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma hasn't been the same since he left.
Yeah.
And you look at some of those Big Ten, some of the other coaches there in the conference, Signetti coming in, and some of the other coaches that have landed there. Kirk Ferentz has been a fucking legend. What is the best? We're going to do this exercise with every conference, but part of me, by doing these slides and doing my homework on all these coaches, I thought, man, is it down a little bit? Is the SEC coaching ranks down a little bit compared to a decade ago?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah, and we're not saying that these coaches suck, but
yeah, no, I think there's still a bunch of good football coaches, but I'm just saying
they lost Saban. I mean, that was a big blow to the league. And I know Kirby's done. He's the new Don. He's the new face, and he's earned it. I mean, he's 62-11 in his time at in the SEC. I know this may sound, but I think the Big 12 may have the best top to bottom coaches. Like if you put
that's kind of what I was getting at when I was doing the exercise. I started doing some of the other conferences while I was doing this. I was like, damn, the Big 12's got some really good coaches, some decent coaches. And I was like, the Big 10's got some decent coaches. Yeah. And then I was like, if you kind of compare them, I mean, shit, you can even make a case with some of the ACC coaches. Dabo, and then there's some new coaches that have a lot of clout in the football world. We'll see how it works out, but I'm just saying, I think the SEC is not as good as a head coaching conference as it was 5-10 years ago, and I don't think there's any harm in saying that. Now, we'll see how it goes. I kind of expect a bounce back year from the SEC after I thought the Big Ten was the best coming into the last season. I thought the SEC was going to be the best conference. I was wrong. I think it was the Big 12. I'm sorry. I think it was the Big 10, not the Big 12. And I think the Big 10 proved it, but I think the SEC is probably going to swing back this year. Kind of fascinated by all these storylines, even the Kirby Smart storyline. But which one though out of the 16 rankings were you most shocked that I had? Like I was most shocked that you had Heupel at 3. Or you had, I think the second one I was pretty shocked it was Pittman. I think you kind of hated on Pittman a little bit.
But I'm a Pittman fan at heart. Maybe it was Lee, but I should have known because you hired Jerry Kill and brought in Pavia that you were going to be biased.
Yeah, potentially.
He automatically added 2 or 3 spots of cushion. Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
If you had not done that, he would have been 16 on your list. Yeah, probably that. But to your point, like I don't think the SEC coaching is bad, but you can make the argument when all the resources and things were even last year. The SEC had their worst year. They didn't have a Final Four or they had Texas, I guess, who was
that's a Big 12 roster, though. It's Big 12 roster, Big 12 coach.
Yeah,
you can't claim that shit. I mean, you can claim it a couple years removed, but year 1, fuck off. That does not count as claiming that.
Georgia lost to Notre Dame. Georgia in the past never came close to losing to Notre Dame. And in that playoff game, in the past they would have won by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
The gap is shrunk.
And that's what makes it so interesting. I know last season of college football was kind of inconsistent across the board. Probably an adjustment period for athletes becoming overnight millionaires. I think it's a lot of it. I think the fact that you had the portal going batshit crazy. You have teams, a lot of teams that they're learning that you need to have a general manager. That you need to be studying. This evaluation of tape is just insane these days. Your depth is all gone. So I think mix all of that with paying. You can now legally pay, and you have just a gigantic. I think it's great for the sport, though. I disagree. Some of the people in the chat higher up were saying, they hate the current state. I mean, I would like some more rules.
You just need a couple, man. You just need some common sense rules. Like if you fucking take money from a school and then transfer, you should have to give that back.
Yeah.
If you didn't play a game.
I'm with you there. But I think the game is, I think the game's going to enter an era providing the whole, it is a little bit taboo of the uncertainty with especially I didn't like the conferences all making 18 team conferences and shit like that, and having Stanford fly across country and vice versa. And I hate all that, but I do like, to me, all the schools being able to pay. I think the transfer portal is a good thing. I would like I don't think it's a good thing that you can transfer this frequently. Like some players but I think the fact that you can go address a team, we're short on our, fullback situation, we're fucked, or a tight end, whatever position, we can go out and get one. I like that. I think that's good. And I also think it's fair because as a student, you can, right? I think that's fair. I thought for years they were fucking people over. So, but I think this is only going to continue to get better. I think the sport, maybe some of the rules, the abrupt slide bullshit, the helmet, the targeting bullshit needs to get out of here. But, yeah, I think it's actually headed in a better direction than it was. So I know I feel like I'm in the minority with that take.
To your point about transfers, here's a league that has the most underrated coaches, and we talked about it earlier this week. The Mountain West. They get all their players poached by these bigger leagues. They have really good coaches. They may have the best coaches, to be honest. Like when you actually
this year and last year, I think you look at the Mountain West coaches, and I'm like, God damn, they've never been this good. This is the best. And what's great about, I mean, it's not great, but that whole conference getting detonated in 12 months, right? So it's unfortunate, but I think I looked at this whole year's coaches and I was like, damn, I kind of like every coach that's fucking in the Mountain West. It's a shame we're going to detonate it in 12 months. So yeah. And shout out to the FCS. I love the FCS. Weehawk loves the FCS. Check out the FCS college football experience as well. We love all levels of college football. But I think the future of the sport is actually, I think that the playoff and having home games on campus is the best thing that's happened to college football in 100 years. So don't panic. Good things are coming. Hopefully just don't blow up. The fear for me is taking the 40 teams and leaving, or the 50 teams. If that happens for NFL junior, that would be fucking horrible. Then it will all be FCS. But anyway, we gotta run. We'll be back tomorrow. We're off NFL draft. So we'll be back next week talking Big Ten coaches, ranking all 18 of them. Shit, by next week, it might be 19 or 20. Give Moneyline Mac a follow on Twitter at Moneyline_Mac. I'm on Twitter at DColeBD. The College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. And yeah, check out the Sports Gambling Podcast. Going live talking UFL action in about 15 minutes. Until next time, this is the College Football Experience. Also, check out the College Basketball Experience transfer portal episode Mac just did. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot.